Jason Wood back.
Man.
I don't know. Is he considered a guest at this point?
Well, friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod.
Recurring guest.
Yeah.
And might I add, maybe my favorite guest.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So I feel like y'all went for the big ratings for Rick Rowe, and then you wanted to just crash them down the next episode. And so, but I'm happy to do that for you.
Yeah. Well,
So
Welcome back.
welcome back. It is good to be here.
Yeah.
With my good friends Leighton and Josh. Mm-hmm. How are y'all doing?
good. I'm a little tired. Been out of town all week, so we're getting it.
Getting it?
Slept
Okay.
good.
I'm enjoying spring, back in life. It's nice. Mm-hmm. Sunny weather. It's great. It's great.
The reason why we love having Jason on is that not only is he one of the funniest, most charming guests that we have,
I would second that.
he has a deep insight into this podcast from a different angle,
Yes.
because he is not in business per se,
Sure.
but how would you describe yourself?
Oh man, how would I describe myself?
Yeah. What do you tell people?
I'm a pastor.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I think at the end of the day, even when I do counseling, I counsel as a pastor. And so that is every avenue I look into. You know, I go to family functions, and I'm the pastor of the family function. And I go to a place, I end up kind of filling that pastoral role of encouraging people, comforting people, guiding people. And so that is, when I hang out with you guys, or if I even come to your business, as I come to Leighton sometimes, that's kind of the role that I come in. And it's basically my only pitch that I have. That and knowing about like 90s Braves players is really all I've got. So, but you know, it's okay. It's a good pitch. It's a good pitch.
I think it's good. So,
Yes.
so pastor, podcast pastor.
Podcast pastor.
Would you call yourself a podcast pastor?
I'm going to now. Yeah. It's going to be on a card somewhere. The podcast pastor.
That's right. I
Yes.
like that.
Well, it's a real thing now, podcast pastors, by the way. They're all over
Yeah.
the place saying all kinds of things, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hopefully just good today.
Well, let's start off with a little controversy. I think we can drum this up.
Okay.
I like it. Let's come out hot.
Okay.
Podcast pastors, what are they doing wrong? What are they getting wrong, podcast pastor?
The other podcast pastors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I could be judgmental for a moment.
I would say gently corrective.
Gently corrected. Okay.
Right.
Okay. There's a few things I believe. I don't believe it is as a pastor, I don't have to be, nor am I informed on every political or public thing that's out there. So to speak with authority on some of these things seems a bit foolish to me. It's fine to have insight on those things, but many times the way those are communicated is if they are the way. And I think it's an over application of some scripture. And here's what I mean is, all right, we're getting controversial, right?
Yes.
Okay. Use immigration, for example. I went there, yeah. Pastors have very specific thoughts on that, which is fine. It's fine to have thoughts on those things, but specific authority, it's really hard to have a specific, or I would say a hardcore application for how we have immigration policy. That is more of a personal conviction. The biblical stance is that we care for the immigrant. Now, how you do that is open to lots of interpretation. But what I see a lot is on topics like that, their application becomes the way. And that is where I get a bit, I don't know, frustrate's the word. I just don't think that's very wise and so, or helpful. But that's just my thoughts.
I mean, coming out of the gate throwing heaters today.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Welcome to the pod.
Well, I'm killing the ratings anyway. Yeah, I might as well just go full.
Yeah. Well, I think it's this idea of making things absolute that aren't absolute.
That's good. That's
right?
good. Yes.
And that's always just dangerous territory.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're right. We can all have different convictions. And,
yeah. I've got lots of opinions.
Yeah.
Lots of opinions that I will share sometimes. as a podcast pastor.
But you go back to the pastoral role, and you say in most of all your settings, you're known as the pastor.
Right.
And so it's a slippery slope.
It is.
To base your advice and whatever it is on the things that aren't absolute, right? I mean, it's kind of...
Yeah, that I would totally agree with that, is that, once again, what I believe helps and changes people is not these opinions, but it is the gospel. And that is what I'm going to lead with. That is the absolute, as you would say, that we should stay, as pastors, that is our focus and should be our primary aim. And so I think sometimes we live in a world that, of an influencer world, and you can grow notoriety in all kinds of ways with podcasts, social media, those kinds of things. Second critique of podcast pastors is that I am called not to pastor the whole podcast world. I'm called to pastor the people of Covenant Church, a very specific context and people. And so what my words are is really for them, not for other people. And I think sometimes pastors lose that in the desire for a bigger platform, whatever it might be. They will spend more time cultivating that as opposed to, their people, which I will tell you is a lot to actually pastor your people if you're actually doing it. And so I don't understand how people have so much time to give thoughts on everything and all this kind of stuff. And so,
well, you're here today, so thank you for
yes,
making the time.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
And so,
well,
it's true.
I've noticed, there are some that I follow that I really respect, and then out of nowhere they make a political statement or something. It's like, gosh, why? And is it this desire because they're just not fulfilled with the reach they have, or do they have this cross in their, it's just kind of I don't know.
I don't know either. In some, it might be a real conviction they have of something they see is the way the world is that they want to speak to. And listen, it is a free country, so they are allowed to do that. Yes. But I think part of this, and even those pastors that like you say, you respect, and I kind of say something like, I've just learned there is nobody in this world that I'm going to fully be on board with and agree with. There's always going to be like 10% there, outside of you two, of course.
Thank you.
Y'all are 100%.
Thank you.
But there's going to be things like that, and that's okay, because there's things that I say that aren't always on point. Yeah. So
you just brought up an interesting question for me. I'd like to ask you. So, I get the instinct for someone who is like you and has different platforms. Maybe the church is primary platform, but there's then a podcasting platform and, conference speaking platform, and just the ways in which you can grow your own, I hate to use the word personal brand, because ultimately I think it's all blended up in this one thing of, I'm here to spread the gospel as far as I can. And if I use these tools, you can see how the mixture of intention gets all cold up into one pot.
Yeah.
How do you steer through that? That's got to be tough.
Yeah, I think it's what is gifting and calling. Ephesians 4 talks about the apostle, prophet, evangelist, shepherd, and teacher is there to build up the church for ministry. And so in those five, that's a fivefold gift: an apostle, a prophet, evangelist, shepherd. So for example, in the setting y'all are, it's very apostolic, which means you're starting new things, businesses. And some pastors, that is Luke Allen on staff with me at Covenant. He is an apostolic leader, which means he's going to start new things, expand reach. That is what God's called him to do. An evangelist wants to share the good news with lots of people. They want to broaden that. And so some pastors, that is going to be their focus, because that is their gifting. Now, I am a capital S shepherd, where that is what I go to bed thinking about doing. And so that's probably part of my own conviction of I'm here to shepherd my people. And so some of that is perspective and gifting. Now, I'm also, a bit probably cynical of the world we live in that is so influenced on growing their brand. And I want to grow the podcast pastor brand myself. I do everything for that brand personally, but it's not growing a lot right now. And so y'all are helping me do that right now. As you get your big ratings here, then bring me on for the next episode. Yeah. So
that Rick royalty check will be, it'll pay for years.
Really. I hope it does. I really do. So does that come to like the next guest that come on, or is it just kind of like a thing for just y'all?
YouTube just is already, they already want to monetize it.
I know they do. I mean, I'm sure y'all are blowing up right now. It's
That's right. Well, you see Layton's new glasses. He's already upped his game.
Those are called the Rick Rowe glasses.
I was trying not to wear them, but I really can't see without them.
I mean, he's got that. He's got a new jacket on. I mean, the guy's like, you can tell
he looks good. He looks good. He does.
You know, he's not going to tell you when he's made it, but there will be signs.
With all the cool people.
You've got to kind of go a little bit. You do.
Yes.
Well, that's why I'm wearing a hat. As a bald person, you wear a hat.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to always look bald. And so...
this episode is sponsored by Clint Davis Counseling, helping people make lasting internal change for external growth and success. They provide professional counseling, education, and resources to the community of Shreveport, Bossier City. They have 3 locations, one in Shreveport, one in Bossier, and one in Benton. So go to clintdaviscounseling.com or give them a call, 318-562-6903. It's always good, like you mentioned, Jason provides a different insight for us. This platform is mainly about businesses, entrepreneurs, local businesses. And one thing I thought would be very cool to talk about would be kind of a bridging. How do we bridge the gap between our personal and home life, or even spiritual life, and our work life? And I feel like, and this is where I'm coming from with this, is that I work a lot with real estate agents that are independent contractors.
Yeah.
That if they aren't working, they are not feeding their family. Yep. And so many of them get burned out. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, whenever I dig into why they're feeling burnout, is because they feel a guilt for neglecting their family. For work.
Yeah.
Because it's not a guaranteed paycheck. It's not a clock in, clock out. I mean, it is a 24/7.
And those hours are when their kids are out of school normally, right?
Out of school. Yeah. I mean, I when I coach agents, I'm like, okay, well, when are you working? They're like, oh, well, I'll respond to emails at 9 o'clock at night while I'm in bed. And I'm like, that sounds horrible. Yeah, that's a miserable way to live.
It is. Yeah.
Or they're like, oh yeah, we went to the beach. It was great. But for 3 hours every day, I had to go back to the condo while my family's at the beach so I could respond to emails, or see what I'm saying? Yeah. And there's always this kind of joke, is that if you really want your business to take off, to go out of town. And it's true, right? Because you can't, it's uncontrollable, right?
That's good.
And so then it's kind of like, well, then how do we, and this doesn't just for real estate agents, but even like an entrepreneur, and Josh is going to have a unique insight on this too, because he grew up with business owners and parents, right? And so your earliest memories, I would assume, were being in the shop and doing whatever. Well,
so you grew up in a pastor's home as well. Is it a similar kind of thing where you saw a lot of stuff growing up in the good and bad, right?
Well, there is a lot to do with when you think of ministry and being self-employed or a business owner, because it is 24/7. You can't really turn things off, right? So yeah, I wanted to talk about that, and a book I had read several years ago, Habits of the Household, which is a great book, but it's also a book that makes me realize how horrible I am as a parent.
It's a great book, and it's a tough hang. All the same stuff,
because it's all like, man, this is just great, and then like
you get 3 minutes of screen time a week.
And then I'm like, okay, we're going to do this, and 3 days later, it's like, oh, there goes our family. All right, no more dinners.
Take the iPad.
Go heat up a corn dog, get your dinner.
Hey, light a candle while you're at it. While you're eating the corn dog.
Oh yeah. Okay, so there, in that book, it's kind of going through twofold. One is teaching your kids why God created work and how that's good for us and beneficial for us. Then twofold is, how do you kind of redeem your work life to where it's not a conflict with your family, but more of they see why you're doing it and how you're honoring God with it, and those things. So.
Yeah, it's a great book, great perspective, and lots to think through and grow in. I think for all of us, as you think through that with your kids and how you in your balance and how you're teaching them to work, all those kind of things. And as you have the oldest kid here with Carter, and we're our other kids. I know with Piper and of course Beckham. They're getting that age where life is getting different, getting more fun. I think as they get older, But also you feel more and more that that call to raise up people who know how to work, who value work, who enjoy work.
Yeah. Well, and me growing up, my personal experience is the earliest memories I remember on Saturdays, we just worked.
Yeah.
My mom was like, all right, you're the one, you clean the toilets and the mirrors. My dad would say, all right, we're mowing grass. We didn't know till that day, but we worked, right?
Yep.
Now, I don't know if they made it a biblical thing and said, hey, here's why you're doing this, you're honoring God. I just didn't want to spanking,
Amen. Yeah.
So, and luckily I had a older brother, so I was the relief, I was called off the bench.
Okay.
If the work was too big, then it was like, all right, well, let's get late. And I'd be like, oh, my stomach hurts. I got to go to the bathroom
What's a lot for you? Makes you nervous, stressful, doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, but then I think to now, my kids don't work on Saturday.
Sure.
If I said, hey, y'all need to go mow the grass, they wouldn't even, they would have no clue what to do.
Sure.
Yeah. And so that's where it makes it a little tricky. And then it's like, well, at what point is it where it's like, hey, no, you're a man now, or you're an adult. We're going to treat you like an adult. Now it's time to start working. So,
well, I think in anything, it's a progression. It's not a light switch. It's a dimmer switch, right? It's the kind of piece by piece. Even with kids, as you talk to them about things like sex and the body, that's not a one-time conversation. That is multiple conversations and progression over their childhood and teenage years. And so the same thing with work, I believe that, you're just slowly, step by step, giving them things to do. But you mentioned something about this is more of a boy to man thing, but when does a boy become a man? Like, how does that work? And we both have sons who just turned 13 years old. And another great book on parenting by John Tyson called The Intentional Father speaks very highly of what's called a rite of passage, and helping young men get this clear kind of step into manhood and the kind of blessing of the men in their life and what that can look like. And I definitely think that work is a part of that. And so I'll give you in my home an example. So I have a 13-year-old boy and an 11-year-old boy, and we have clear expectations that are different for each one, because Hayes is older and he is stepping into what I would say more mature responsibility, right? Nothing crazy, but it's different. And I think there's something about that is helpful to have those kind of lines and markers in our own minds, in our own life.
Yeah.
So.
That's really, it's really interesting. I have not read the book, Leighton, Habits of the Household. I did do a little deep dive on the treadmill this morning to get into it. And number one, I think I want to read it. Very good.
You like it.
I like it a lot. I like that he was talking a lot about a liturgical approach to your daily life. Mm-hmm. But one thing let's back up a second when we talk about the kids and the work-life balance and all that. I think what was the most captivating part of the book was you could tell that there was your own internal model for work needs to be a certain thing, right?
Yep.
Because when you're explaining to your kid, like, hey, here's the work that I do and here's the meaning behind the work. So many times I find myself going, Saturday's almost here.
Yeah, sure.
Saturday's almost
working for the weekend.
Yes.
I can taste
vacation is coming. Yes.
I can taste that vacation. I can taste Saturday and it's going to be here and I'm so excited. And I think our family sees that and they know that. And that speaks more than maybe some of the things we would say, even if we probably never say it. So for me, it's almost trying to internalize this idea of, okay, I'm thinking about what I do. So I help people through our stores and team, repair problems with their household, practical, real problems. They want to build a house, if they want to remodel, like we're part of important work. And sometimes we don't always see it as important work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Probably same for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, even in ministry, which you feel like is very important work, it feels most days like it's not, or like nothing's changing. It's what it really feels like. I think the work thing and you're right, our kids are going to learn more from seeing us than what we say. And that's the hard part. But I think it starts with a healthy theology of work, that work is not a punishment after we sinned. Work was from the very beginning. That is part of what we're created to do. Now, in a post-fall world, our work is harder. It is tainted with sin. And so there is a sense that the work is heavier than it's meant to be in the original design. So that is why we have that desire for the Saturday, right? And that is why I believe a Saturday or a Sabbath in your life is so important. I think this is a model of work and rest. I think you need a healthy balance of both in your life. But I definitely think we can veer towards the side of work is just a thorn in our side and not what it really is. It's a chance to cultivate. And I love it on y'all's podcast, this heart that your business and this podcast is for the betterment of the city, which I believe is the whole point of work, is that whatever your little corner of the world is that you are doing the work of expanding God's kingdom where you live, work, and play. And so that is the purpose of work, and of course to provide and all these things. And so to model that's the first thing I believe. So with your own life.
This episode is sponsored by Ivy's Building Materials with 3 locations in Halton, Blanchard, and Mansfield. We are your locally owned home center. We have hardware, building materials, anything you need to build a house, to fix a toilet, to paint a room. Come see us at Ivy's Building Materials and see the service that we are known for. IvyLumber.com.
Yeah, one of the concepts Jason always teaches, and I've still, it took me a while to really understand it and grasp it because it sounds simple,
great teaching,
but it's not. Yeah, great teaching. He would always say, you don't rest from your work, you work from your rest. Right? And that it's not this just
so profound
grind, work, and then you just crash and rest, but that your work and you do such good work because you do take the time to rest and abide, right? Yep. And that's true. And then that even comes down to business leaders too. Is like, I mean, I've had to tell even recently some team members, I'm like, hey, even if you miss a job because you got to go home and go home. Yeah. Like it's not worth it. Yep. Like you're no good to the company and to the work if you're burned out. Yep. Right.
Well, and think long haul. Like, cause I think of ministry, I'm sure y'all are the same way with is that I want to do this for the next 40 years. Mm-hmm. I want to do this for 40 years. I can't be sprinting all the time, right? It has to be a healthy pace, which means you're going to say no to some things in the short term for the health of the long term. And same true for all your employees and yourselves is that if we just go so hard, we're going to make it 3 years and we're going to crash. Or or be tired of this and go somewhere else, as opposed to healthier rhythms over the long haul.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it does come from exactly what you said, that healthy theology of work, because if work is just a means to an end, it's just, we kind of go throughout the day and the week with our family, in a sense, it's like, well, this is what I have to do to make money, right? Yep. Like, and if that's the pervasive thought in your head about where you're spending all this time, well, of course, your kid is going to go, man, I never want to go to work. It looks like this sucks.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Well, Carter already told me one day we were driving back late at night he was like at a school dance, and he just said, Dad, am I going to have to run your businesses one day?
And then like a tear started coming down his face.
At first I was like, well, I mean, you don't want to? Like, I'm giving you this gift. He's like, the keys. No. He's like, I think I just want a normal job. Right. Yeah. I'm like, okay, hey, fair enough.
Well, plumbing didn't work for him.
Yeah.
So,
and I just said, hey, buddy, I owe you nothing and you owe me nothing.
That's good.
That's good. So,
right.
But yeah. Yeah, no, the plumbing didn't work out. He said it was a backup plan.
It's a backup plan. That's good. We got to have those.
Even though by the time he gets that age, that's going to be the only job left.
Yes, it is.
Plumbing electrician will be the only job.
That's all we've got left.
That is true.
And podcast pastors.
Yeah. Hey. And that's all we're going to have left. But, it is that thing, though, where your kids see you they see your stress. That's what I think it really comes down to. And their life is, our kids are very blessed. They're not stressed, right? Yes. And they see you going and coming. And listen, part of this, you can't deny it. It is hard and stressful. Like, there are days where it's like that, but you want to make sure that, and I try to do this because my kids will say, oh man, I don't want to do this one day. And I try to remind them, like, well, I enjoy what I do. Yeah. And, it's hard
it's a good point too, though, is that like I shelter my kids, even my wife, from the stress.
Yes.
I don't want to bring it home.
Yep.
but at the same time, you said they're seeing more than hearing.
Yep.
And so there should be they should see some of it in a healthy way. They should
because
see.
They're
They should know
one day and how they deal with it.
Yes.
This
So they should know, like, oh yeah, it was a hard day. Here's why it was hard. Here's what I did. Whatever, you know.
Yep.
And so instead of just like taking 30 minutes and listening to calming music, and like, okay,
yes,
I'm about to be around my kids.
Yes.
Second shift.
You're just in the garage waiting.
Here it comes.
That's right. Just in the garage hiding. This is really, really good. And I think that to a certain degree, what I'm hearing today is that we have to find a way to kind of say to our kids, look, I want to invite you into this good work, rather than saying, okay, you're about to turn 18 and you're going to have to join the slog.
Yes.
Just the slow race towards the abattoir. I mean,
Here we go.
That's right. Here we go. Death is around the corner. But it's the idea of, I want to invite you into this good work because this work that we do is meaningful.
Yep.
And appreciating that and appreciating the gift that God gives us to do it day in and day out, to not be neglectful of that, to be aware of how we can use that for ultimately God's glory is what I would say, even though I never, ever get that right in anything that I do. Ultimately inviting them into that, I think, is a better approach than them just watching you hide in the garage.
So you grew up in the family business. I mean, during that, the third generation, serving since 1969. Yeah,
Let's
there we
go.
That's right. Yes.
That's right.
So were you, I'm growing up, was it just kind of always this thing where people would see you around the shop, be like, oh yeah, when Josh runs this place, and kind of like, it was kind of like said, hey, it's expected of you that.
I mean, that's a defining piece of my life.
Yeah.
Because when I'm 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, every time I'm in the store, somebody comes up to me and goes, hey, little Mitch, you gonna take over one day. And I'm just like, oh, you're wrong, man. You're wrong. And
Have you seen me play baseball?
That's right. So, I had in a lot of ways, it was defining because I did. A lot of my early life was a reaction to those expectations. Those, like Carter saying, Dad, do I have to do this? It's like, I don't want to do this. And it wasn't that the work was necessarily bad. It was just that it was in a very small town. And I felt like I would have just been trapped there forever. And I could have never gone out. It's like I got to go out and see the world.
Yeah.
So where do you live now?
Very close. Very close. And life is fun.
Well, it's funny because we had your dad on season 1. Listen to it. It was great. But, because in his mind, he was also thinking kind of how I was with Carter's like, I want to hand this over to my son and we're going to bond.
It's going to be so great.
Work together.
Yeah.
And he tells how he sent you to that to see Zig Ziglar. Motivational. This is after he graduated college. And he says, and you said, hey, Dad, I really figured out what I want to do. And Mitch is like, yes, he wants to take over the business. And he says, I'm starting a rock band.
I think every father wants to hear.
Yeah.
I think he called and asked for a refund for the money. He's like, can I please get a refund from Ravi Zacharias or whatever his name was? It was somebody like that. I don't know. But it's a good question because, I talk to some people and they're in business and they have kids. And I talked to a guy yesterday at the gas pump and he's like, I just don't know if my daughter wants to do this or my son wants to do this. But I think deep down, most people that have business in their mind, they're thinking, I think I would like my kid to carry this forward. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are like that.
I think a lot of people are like that.
Yeah. Even though it's
sure how healthy it is.
Maybe horribly misguided.
Yes.
But I think it's human, but it can't drive things. It's normal. Of course, you love your kid. You want them to be around you.
Even just as a business, even as a business model, that's horrible.
It is.
Sure. Because very rarely does a second generation or a third generation take a company to success.
That's right.
What do we say? That was a Greg Rochelle thing, the first, second, and third generation.
Yep.
He's like the first generation builds it, the second generation maintains it, and the third generation squanders it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Hey, that's me.
There you go.
Let's go, Josh.
That's right.
It is very, so then, you navigate that. So it's, I don't know how you really have those,
Well,
how you alleviate that expectation.
I think it's reframing the goal of parenting, which is cultivating what the unique things that your child has. That is what we're trying to do, and now, could that line up with what you're doing? It could, because they do have some of your DNA in there, and you've influenced them, but not always.
Well, and that's funny because people say, well, is Carter going to take over the businesses? And I'm like, no, Anna is.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because she demands a room, and she has the loudest voice in the room.
Does. Yep.
I'm like, yeah, no, it'll be Anna.
Yes, absolutely. And so that is very interesting. Yeah. And it was just funny how your kids are just so different.
Yeah.
And it's learning to enjoy the differences, I think, on some level, because, that's a real gift. Like I'll give some middle son, Connor. He is so into history and the military, and he wants to go shoot guns, and he has the wrong father for that. He wants to go hunting, all those kind of things. And he has a very soft father, and he's a podcast pastor. What do you expect?
What do you say?
His nails are clean.
It's like, Dad, come watch Duck Dynasty with me.
Yes, I'm reading a book. And the other a few weeks ago, we were driving, and he was been talking about wanting to be a police officer when he grows up.
Okay.
And it's an extremely noble calling, but all I think about is how hard that is, how dangerous that is, the cost benefit analysis of all that. And I start, I wouldn't say criticizing, but I guess criticizing might be some level. And I look back, and he is crying. And I'm like, oh man, I just there's this impulse in him to protect. It's a real, you see that. And so when I say cultivate those things, that is where I felt that day. I had to come back later and say, listen, I see this in you, and I don't know how it's going to play out. It could be a police officer one day. That'd be a phenomenal thing. Sure. And so it's just kind of seeing those moments.
He was wearing a defund the police shirt, probably.
Because Carter's still trying to figure out what direction he's going in, and it changes.
Sure.
And so it's like, engineering. Then one day he says, well, I was thinking about, being a school teacher. My first response is, oh, you don't want to take your family on vacations? that's literally what I said. He's like, what do you mean?
We'll just go with Anna and her family.
That's right. She'll take you.
Yes.
Oh my God.
She'll take you.
That was literally my first. This episode is sponsored by Plumber for Hire, locally owned plumbing company specializing in residential and commercial plumbing. They've recently expanded into new construction plumbing, and also, they're very proud of starting their HVAC division. So when the temperature gets hot, if you need any servicing or work done on your heating and cooling system, make sure to call Plumber for Hire. There's no job too big or too small for them. You'll see their vans driving around town. Give them a wave. They really pride themselves in getting to every job within a day of the call coming in. So get in touch with them, 318-709-9090, or visit their website, plumberforhiresbc.com, or you can find them on social media.
It is tough. Look, just in the last couple of weeks, this has been crazy. My daughter, she's grown up, and I would say she's just not interested in much. She's just really not. And this whole time I've been like, it's cool. I'm not. We just let her kind of figure it out.
Right, yeah.
She started really getting into writing stories. She's nonstop. Every time you see her now, she's got her notebook, and she's on the way to school. She's just writing. Mm-hmm. And then she wants to write stories like she likes, so Hunger Games and Harry Potter.
Yeah,
and she loves that. And so, it's probably like being a band. The very best of the best are going to be very, very financially successful, and most everybody else is probably going to be.
So she doesn't want vacations either. That's what you're saying.
Well, so I saw a friend the other day who also has a lumberyard, and I asked him about his family.
Is there a club?
Well, yes, there is.
Real exciting.
He also has a lumberyard, and I asked him about his family, and he said, well, I got kids in college. One of my daughter, she is in upstate New York at a college that has a program for children's literature.
Really?
So she's getting a degree in this thing. And I got terrified.
Yeah,
I was I was like, I don't know if I should
bring it up.
I don't know if I should ever mention
down low.
That's right.
What's funny is that Hayes is the exact same way. He wants to be a writer, and I'm and he's written some stories, and you've read some of them. Yes. little darker than you think Hayes would write. But, and so, and I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, yeah, that could be a great thing for you to do on top of your career. It's because you do, as a parent, it's just the inherent thing. You want them to be able to pay their bills.
I remember bringing one of Hayes' stories home, and I said, Carter, you should illustrate this. Hayes would think it's so cool to like illustrate it. And he goes, I just want to be the editor.
You should edit
okay, there you go.
You should edit it, yes.
Oh, man, look, they got a program.
They got a program.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess, and we have no idea the world that's going to look like for our kids and work.
Well, you talked about them all being different. It's what's crazy to me is how siblings can grow up in the same household and have a whole different perspective of how things were.
Yep.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
And it's crazy because like I have a perception of how my parents were with work and church and all this stuff. And then I'll talk to my brother or sister and it was totally different.
Yep.
And I'm like, how do they pick that up? Right.
It's, I mean, part of it, I think, is probably how you're wired. And of course, birth order has a big part of this, middle child. I mean, middle children are a special breed, and it can be tough being a middle child, and that definitely can influence how you see things with your parents for sure.
Yeah.
So
last night at a baseball practice, we're standing in line, and I told the kids they kept calling me coach. I said, I'm not coach. I'm just making sure y'all are in order, and I keep y'all in line.
You're coach.
And one of the coaches and one of the kids said, "Oh, you're gonna give spankings?" I was like, "No, I don't do spankings." And Zeke goes, "Yeah, he does. He spanks me all the time." I'm like, "Zeke, you've never gotten a spanking in your life." And he's like, "Yeah, yes." He's like, "Oh no, I do something wrong. I mean, I'm getting a spanking."
Yes.
I'm like, "Dude, you've never had one ever."
Yes, my kids are saying, "Well,
even this morning, I said, dude, why would you say that in front of those people? You've never had a spanking." He's like, "Yeah, I have." And I'm like, when?
Half a spanking 6 years ago, maybe. Yeah.
It's so funny.
We learned a lot today.
Yeah.
So I'm what's interesting is we have three different, I grew up in a home with a postal worker and a nurse. And so very defined 8 to 5, you come home and then you're done. And
build up your retirement, 30 years, retire.
And you're done.
Yeah.
And that world is now probably gone anyways.
Yes.
But and so seeing that, in me inherently, there is a sense of like work it's been, as a pastor, it's adjustment, like, because that is not an 8 to 5 job. That work always goes. But what I saw growing up was, 8 to 5, and then you come home and you got to do what you want to do. And it's been an adjustment for me coming from that to the world I'm in now. And I'm curious for you guys, I'm asking all the questions now. Y'all grew up in homes that wasn't that way. And so was that, do you look back on that fondly, or is that like, ooh, that was a lot?
I mean, for me, it was just the way life was. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Now I can look back and say, I can say, oh, wow, my mom was literally left to raise 3 kids while my dad worked. Yeah. 7 days a week. Yeah. And how that, but in the moment, I didn't really feel that way.
Yeah.
I just know this, when we took vacations, like when I take vacations with my family, it is, I want to do every single thing we can do in that week or whatever. When we went on vacations, the only time I would see my dad not shave, we would go rent like a bunch of movies, and he would just like crash for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, man. I think ultimately you just don't know any other way.
Yeah.
And you think that this is the way that everybody is.
Yeah.
My mom and dad both worked in the business all the time. My dad worked Saturdays most of the time.
Yeah.
I was growing up as well. So that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I always had a sense that they were these people, but then at work they had to be not different people, but they had such an enormous responsibility, and it was so demanding on them that they were slightly different people doing this. And I saw that a lot in my dad, where, I think if you just ask him what he wanted to do, he might want to be a pastor.
Yeah.
But in, the context of work, he had to be much more, what's the word? I don't say stern, but just
hard.
Much more, just much more firm, much more like, hey, you know what? It's this way or get out. And so you had a guy who was like naturally gifted to almost be a pastor, have to navigate through, the complexities of running a business where it's just much tougher.
Yep.
And seeing the difference between what I knew of his normal nature with me and our family versus how he had to navigate through the business world made me think this thing is you have to be hard. You got to be tough. You've got to be, you've got to like, so in that modeling, I didn't get a sense of, hey, I'm inviting you into this good work. I got a sense of like, this is hard.
Yeah.
But it's good, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I think part of it is, I think, hard and good. So I'm a pastor. My wife is a teacher, teaches special education in public school. So, both of our jobs are hard. And so having the kids see that, but not run from that is, I feel like, our challenge is that. So, and it goes bad sometimes. So the other night, we get home and we cook dinner and we eat dinner, and me and Trey sit on the couch for a minute after dinner, and it's literally 8:30 at night, and we both pass out on the couch. And not even like a bad day, just passed out on the couch, kitchen not cleaned up, the whole thing. And then I wake up to my oldest son, Hayes, cleaning the kitchen. And he was like, I know you had a hard day. And I was like, oh gosh, no, it's not your job to like take care of us. I'm like, I felt, like he has like absent parents. and so it's like, how do you
went to school? My parents passed out on the couch last night.
Are they okay? Hey, CPS, how you doing?
Too much to drink. This episode is sponsored by Priority Roofing, locally owned, family-ran business specializing in residential and commercial roofing, repairs, replacements. No job is too small. They've helped thousands of homeowners in the Shreveport-Bossier area over the past several years. Call the office, 318-202-2123, or visit their website, PriorityRoofingLLC.com.
And so that was like, oh man, but there's a real thing. You are tired. And and I'm trying to navigate that in my own life.
Yes.
Right now of it's okay to be tired.
Yes.
How do you do that?
And I can look back, we went through seasons where we had a cooked meal and family dinner every night. Yeah. And then there were seasons where it was like, hey, I got, hamburgers, you're on your own or whatever. Right. And so I see that because like for us, we hang out with our kids every night. Yeah. Like we're watching TV together. We're in the living room. I don't remember doing that much as a kid. Yeah. Like there was no really. There was that kind of thing. No. And I think it's just because they were tired because my mom ended up going back to teaching. And once you're there, yes. And so, to me, that's been the fun part of seeing your kids get older is that they're now part of our life and part of our evenings and our weekends in a way that wasn't true when they were 3 years old, or is enjoyable when they were 3 years old. I might say that. Yeah. And so it's just how do you model and how do you teach are the questions that I think we're all wrestling with. I think there's a few ways you can do this. I think the modeling piece is, he even says in the book that when you talk about your work or you head out for your work, that you make sure you do it in an encouraging way, that you get to go and experience your vocation, help people, whatever it might be, and then when you leave for work, that they don't think you're going to like the worst place ever. I ask my kids all the time, like, when I'm leaving, like, oh, I'm sorry you have to go. I was like, well, no, I get to go. This is and I, probably similar to y'all, like I am literally doing what I dreamed about doing. And so it is a blessing what I get to do. And helping remind them of that is the key. Yeah. So we're going. Laurie's in getting her master's in counseling, and so we're calling it work. She's not getting paid yet, but she's having to put in all these hours. So I just say work, right? Yes. And she has a little home office to do her studies. And so the other day they said, "Where's Mom?" I said, "She's at work." Yeah. And so Zeke runs into where her home office is and like, "She's not at work." Like, well, that's sweet. Yeah. Yeah. So, but that's an adjustment for them because they'd never known anything different. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Last question, because we're going to fire up the next one. I've been thinking about this in terms of, maybe the phrase would be sanctification. I don't know. But I was thinking about it today, 45 now, but looking back at 35 and asking myself, do I have a better handle on some of these things, be it with work, with family, with, relationship with God, all the above. Do you feel like your journey from 35 to 45, what do you feel like has gotten better in all of those things? Like, how do you just feel different?
Okay.
Well, first of all, he's 44, Jason.
Thank you very much.
You are not.
Yes.
You are not mid-40s yet.
Golly, man, just killing me with the 45 thing. It's a few months away.
Couple months.
A month for you. Man, that's a great question. And this can sound whatever, but it's a lot better, is what I feel like. I feel like in some ways I'm a different person than I was when I was 35, which I think what we mess up is when we try to think about growth in terms of weeks and months and not years, because we grow very slowly. But I feel like as far as my rhythms of work and rest are much healthier now than when they were 35. I feel like my enjoyment of work is different from when I was 35 and 45, but I think that's a natural thing. As you keep growing in your field, there becomes, I think, a greater confidence in what you're doing, a greater comfort in what you're doing, and you get more opportunities at what you're doing. Things like this. You could be a podcast pastor. I didn't have when I was 35 years old.
Yeah.
And all those things, to me, are a real blessing. And I also think, I know this, just the work of parenting has been so good for me, because parenting inherently is the most thankless job that somebody has, because you're doing things nobody sees, nobody says thank you. And sometimes in those early years, it's not really fun at all.
No.
And when you have lots of littles, learning how to be patient and learning how to work happens some from even their own lives. And so, I'll answer your question or not, but that is, it feels much better and much different than 10 years ago or 9 years ago. Be clear on that. I was 35.
Well, that is the answer. Layton, What about you, man?
Yeah. I mean, I think I always say, like, for me, each decade's gotten better. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel.
Yep.
But then I even have talks with Carter, he's 17. He's 10 years older than our youngest. And I'm like, I'm doing things now with our youngest that I didn't do with Carter, you know? So he has a different experience as me as a parent.
Yep.
And some of that I can be shameful for, and like I have to apologize. And some of that is just, but he's old enough now to understand that.
Right.
I was the firstborn. My dad was 28 when I was born. He was starting a business.
Yep.
It's different whenever I come in.
It's totally different.
Yes. And so, I think that's it. Man, my big thing, and this is just I got to keep reminding myself of this. Like, I'm at the point now where my businesses are bigger than I am, and I can't let them outgrow me, right? And that is big, because I've had to turn over key positions even recently because our company's growing and they're not growing.
Yeah.
Right. And that just goes for all of us. Like, we just have to keep growing,
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah. I just focus on that. I would say the last 10 years for me has been the biggest season of growth.
Yeah. And on that same principle of growing, don't let it outgrow you. I think it's also true in parenting, that the way you parent a 3-year-old is different than a 14-year-old, obviously.
Should be.
It should. You would hope so. I remember talking to a friend, Jeff Grubbs, whenever my boys were so little and in those dark days, and I was like, oh, this is so terrible. He said, well, it gets easier but heavier as they get older. And I think part of what we're talking about today is that even in the parenting aspect, we have to keep growing in how we think, how we lead, because our kids are getting older and
smarter.
And smarter.
Yeah, they'll call you out on it now.
They really will.
Yeah.
And it's also just being patient with what your kids are. Well, because, we're not doing this today, but, 24-year-old Jason was not the best version of Jason. And to think of my 13-year-old, well, I give a lot of grace for him being a 13-year-old person and not having it all figured out yet. And so, because we tend to project things on them that we didn't do at that age. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well said.
Would you say you've grown?
You know what? The way that I've been thinking about this is kind of like that your 401k or simple plan or whatever. you're young and you're just putting a little bit into it, and then, you do it for a long period of time, and you have not only what you put in, but you have the compounded interest.
Yep.
And I think that's a good example for what I'm talking about, because what I'm experiencing is a compounding.
That's good.
There's a compounding of, you hope, spiritual essence and flavor in your life that manifests now in different ways. My focus is different. My gratitude is different for what I get to do. My, the realization of whatever my legacy may or may not be is grounded in this now, in terms of you think about, well, the end is coming. And then what does that mean for the work that I've done or I'm doing?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about things like that a little bit differently. The compounding growth of the time spent in your relationship with your wife, with your daughter, I'm sure with you, it's like your network, right? The people that you've known over your career and you've done things for and you've helped out. This is a compounding over your life.
Yeah.
Spiritually, relationally, in the work and your experientially, how I've already done this before. I know, the answer to this question. And I think that compounding from 35 to 45 is really important, because just like what you said, Jason, there's less anxiety for me now, because it's almost like I've kind of seen that, I've kind of done it. And then there's also a gratitude and a peace in that I think I've helped people, and I think I've, made an impression with different people. And I think I'm going to be okay no matter what.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, you know what you are, what you're not.
Yeah.
And you're okay with that. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing. And if I'm not great at this, and that's okay. I read a book recently by Mark Batterson called Gradually Then Suddenly. And that great and healthy things really happen gradually, day by day by day by day. And you look up and suddenly you see the fruit of it. But it started 7 years ago with the gradual, as you said, compounded interest over time. That is the Proverbs in a lot of ways as well. That is the way God has designed things. As we sow and sow and sow and sow and sow, we look up one day and we reap our kids. We reap a healthy marriage. You reap healthy finances. You reap your career. All those kind of things. But it does start with as boring little daily choices, and it compounds over time.
And we think our life is defined by just a handful of things, but really it's just a long, long progression.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say, I don't want to keep talking, but is it's also the long progression of applying grace in your life. And here's what I mean. Because we all have 10 years we're talking right now, and we could probably speak to a million things those 10 years that we failed at and that we're disappointing ourselves by, right? But I think what I've seen more over the past 10 years is my awareness of God as a father, and as fathers, my kids could do anything. And my love for them is not going to change. It's actually, when they mess up, I'm going to pursue them more. And I think more than the things I've done, it is grasping that and seeing God in a truer way, which has been the greatest thing for my heart over the past 10 years. That not that I'm not convicted of my sin, I am, but I don't sit in my sin as long as I used to, because I'm aware of God's goodness and I can run to Him when I fail. And you do that quicker. And what happens is the consequences of that mistake or that sin aren't as far reaching. So it makes sense, because when we see God as ready to pounce and as harsh, when we mess up, we run in shame. And it's normally the shame and the hiding that has the tail of consequences, not the singular moment itself. And so I don't know if that makes sense at all, but that has been probably my greatest realization over the past 10 years of who God is and how His grace and His mercy and His patience is what changes me.
You know what, if I will say this as we close, if more podcast pastors are on that beat, this would be a better place.
Oh, yeah.
Well said.
Start with immigration and with grace.
Jason, thank you. That was great.
Thanks, guys. All right.